Hi guys, just a quick video. I'm in a forest, as you can see, and the subject for today is that old castle called Rock of Dunamase that is located on the top of a hill. I'm way in front of it, maybe 300-400 meters, and as you can see I try to basically frame it through this through these branches of trees. This is what my camera sees at the moment. I'm at 50 millimeters, and yeah, it's a new era for me. I'm with my Canon EOS 1V, and I have a 24 to 105 centimeter lens, and I have promised to myself to shoot 100 rolls of film. It will take me a while, but I just want to see how film renders the image compared to digital, and I get to play with my light meter as well. Something fell on the ground. So I having in the camera loaded a Film Emulation, a Kodak Gold, and that's a color negative film, so obviously you have to expose for the shadows. Hello buddy. And develop the highlights. So for example, I'm at f8, so let me get some measurements. So there. So in order to get the exposure, I have a very simple technique. I'm basically metering all the tones of interest, highlights, shadows, and midtones, and then pressing the mid-tone and rotating the jog wheel, I can place the shadows wherever I prefer. Usually it is -2 stops below middle gray, which is zone 3. This is what a lot of people from the film community recommend, and this is something that came up through experience, and this is how color negative renders the images the best. Now if I look at the highlights, they are 3 stops above mid-tone, so probably the color negative emulation can handle that as well. Now I'm not going to use 1/160 of a second because I'll be using a polarizer in front of the lens. So if I'm going to input this into the camera f11 at 1/160 of a second, a polarizer 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. A polarizer has 2 stops, cuts the light with 2 stops, and that brings the shutter speed at 1/140th of a second. So this is the shutter speed that I'll be using. So in order to do that, I'm just going to spin the polarizer before placing it into the holder, and because the sun is in front of us, it does nothing. Yeah, it does nothing. So we go back to the initial settings, which is 1/160 of a second, and I'm going to remove it altogether from the holder. There's no need having it. I'm just going to place the holder in front of the lens, and I just disturb the composition a little bit. That is not too bad. Okay, it's just smack in the middle there, and I'll be adding now, as you can see, the 10 stop and the grad, and this should go here in the front of the lens. Now adding a 10 stop, we have to use a calculator this time. So we have the Lee application, and at 1/160 of a second it tells me that the correct exposure is 6 seconds, but there is a reciprocity rule that we have to use as well. So if we open up the calculator, you have to calculate 6 at 1.3 power, and this is exactly 10 seconds. So this is the exposure. Further, to get the exposure, you need a remote control, which I'll be placing it in here. Camera set to bulb, f11, 10 seconds. Check again, the composition is checked. Well, camera set to manual focus, set, we go. Yeah, we are exposing now, and that's it. That will be it. If you want longer exposure times, that was 12 seconds, but it's okay. I think you can handle. For good measure, probably, I'm just going to do it again at 10 seconds. Seven, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, and that's it. If you want a longer exposure, probably you can alter the aperture. You go to f16, f22, so then you'll get longer and longer exposures, but there is not too much wind at the moment, so I don't see how that will affect the clouds. It's not that impressive. Anyway, that's 2 shots in the bag. I have 9 exposures left, so I think we'll go and find a different composition. No? See you shortly. I'm again in a different location. As you can see now, I'm photographing a church, and I have this electrical wire, but I think it somehow looks like a leading line to it. Anyway, it's just an old test shot for my Kodak Gold. Again, I use the polarizer probably as the maximum intensity. So now we will proceed with the metering. And again, I'm at f11. I already focused on the church itself to get the correct exposure. We're just going to measure all the tones. First of all, I can measure, for example, the church wall, and it's already giving me 1/250 of a second. I'm just going to get the highlights. The buffiest cloud is 2500, probably more. No, 2000, 1/2000. I have this black stone there in the foreground. I'll get the door as well, and what else? There is another stone that may, in another shadow area there. So I'm just measuring all the possible shadows and midtones and highlights, and then by pressing the midtone button and rotating the jog wheel, I can place the shadows in zone 2, and the correct exposure is 1/200 of a second. The highlights are a little bit too much. They are in zone 3.5, so I may need to use the one-stop anti-grad, something that is I very rarely use, but this image calls for it, if I can find it. What? I don't know where it is. .6, 0.9 reverse. Oh, here, 0.3. So I'm just going to use this anti-grad as well, but I'm going to put it probably like this in a slanted position, and in order to do this I have to probably remove anti-grad first. So probably like this is somehow perfect. Okay, and now we have the 10 stop back. So essentially I have added This is the exposure without any filter, okay, and it is 1/200 of a second. If I put a 2 filters polarizing, I get obviously 1/50th, and now I have to add 10 stops for the ending grad, and the Lee calculator shows 1/50th of a second shows exactly 20 seconds, and if you put 20 seconds, 20 at 1.3 power, that's 50 seconds. But the light changed. I think it's less bright now. That's the problem with film photography, so we may need to meter again. It's less light now, but we'll keep that in mind. 50 seconds. So anyway, we'll do a quick metering. Yeah, I know it's kind of the same. It's still the same. Yeah, 1/60. It didn't drop too much. All right. So back to bulb mode. 50 seconds. Here we go. Everything that is longer than 1 minute, when you're shooting film with an ND stopper like Lee, gives you a very blue cast, so you have to be very careful not to overdo it. Clouds are moving very good, so at least we'll get some motion to justify the long exposure, and we move on to the next area. So as you can see, you need very stable light conditions, because if changes, it's very easy to adjust in digital photography, very difficult for film. Now 1/3 of a stop is not the end of the world in film. It will look kind of the same, but I'm just going to do it 48 seconds instead of 50. Let's see what's happening. All right. Actually, that should have been more. I should have prolonged the exposure time, not shorten it. Whatever. We'll see you in the next one. So again, welcome to the nostril shot. This time we are in the studio, and we will be editing in the Lightroom the 3 photos that we were talking about previously in the video. So without further ado, this is the first shot, actually this one, and remember that was taken when I was in that particular forest looking into through the Rock of Dunamase, the particular old castle that we are talking about. Same routine. Let's get the white balance done and then cropping in. I did a quick and dirty little DSLR scan here, nothing fancy, just to rotate. You can always get better results than me with this, and one day I'll get better at that. Now, is it aligned? Let's say like this. Okay, maybe this is the horizon line. Okay, it should do. And now I have to apply the plugin, Negative Lab Pro, and it will ask us if it should convert to black and white. Of course not. We convert to Frontier or to Ritsu. Frontier is better. Convert on negative. And miraculously, we have an exposure. We can play with the highlights here and everything in between. We can even increase the darks. Doesn't do much. Maybe increasing the brightness a little bit. Doesn't do much. Now this is the final image. Unfortunately, I did not take into consideration this area of shadows here and the right bottom side. It's kind of I kind of like it. It's a frame into frame picture. You can't really see the Rock of Dunamase that great, but believe me, it's there. And unfortunately, the sky is just half of half. It's not quite the rule of thirds, but I was more looking into that frame into frame kind of composition. We have a nice breast of clouds, and metering was apparently correct. I did not take into consideration, obviously, this area in the foreground, which is kind of pitch black, but I think it kind of helps to the overall dynamic of the photo. The next one is similar in composition. I think we were simply talking there about I altered the exposure with 2 seconds, and most likely that would have very little impact. We will see on the overall image. I don't know why it's so crooked. Negative Lab Pro come to rescue. And yeah, it's kind of the same thing, I think. Yeah, I don't see any major difference. We kind of be doing kind of the same approach. Yeah, it's I would say they are fairly similar. Maybe this one is a little bit warmer somehow compared to the second one. I'm not sure why. We can probably address that. Yeah, it won't make any difference, any major impact. Plenty of details. This film holds the image really well, like any other color negative emulation. It's quite nice. Now the third and final image was with that particular church. Phew, very crooked. What do you expect? So we'll do our workflow. Will we? I wonder if we need to rotate it a little bit. This is not a tilt and shift lens, so it will never look perfect. So that's probably good enough. And yes, very nice. We can probably brighten it up a little bit, though. It's most likely my display. I don't think we need to do it. I absolutely nailed it. You can see the beautiful cloud movement that gives this lateral long exposure effect. Other than that, we have this wire, electrical wire. Let's say it adds like a leading lines. I think it's more like a distraction. I don't think it works, but probably here we can remove it in Photoshop. But then I'm sure that this needs to be removed. Simple as that. But other than that, plenty of details in the shadows, nothing clipped in the highlights. The exposure was correct. I don't see any color cast. If you think there is a blue color cast, we can always make things a little bit warmer or cooler, like it is, like so. And yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with the results. Not too bad. Those for test shots, these are absolutely great. Is this better than digital? Well, yes and no. I'm pretty sure those colors are quite difficult to obtain in digital. It's kind of difficult to emulate this recipe if you don't know what you're doing. And film has its own color science, and I'm very happy about it. And that's why I think it's worth shooting, and I'll be continuing doing so. Stay tuned for more videos like this one, and I'll see you next time.